Adamas, broski, just leave the narrative at this point. You take nothing but L's. Thank you to our final patrons, Citizen Lancelot, Praise the Sun, Strawbones, and Aaron. Now, before we come to this breakdown / review of chapter 65 of Record of Ragnarok, please do a favor, leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so that you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's get into last month's poll. So, last month I ended up asking y'all a very simple question. I need to know, with the end of Record Ragnarok Round 7, were you guys happy with the results? And with a staggering, I'm just kidding, so it's actually not staggering, it was actually pretty darn close. A solid, juicy 59% of the vote went to yes, it had to end this way. Essentially, 59% of people were happy with the ending of the last fight, which definitely makes sense to me. I was obviously Team Kin. Like, you didn't necessarily hear me expressing much care for Hades throughout his entire fight, so pretty obvious who I was on the side of. But 41% for no did not have to end this way. Hades definitely held a lot of sway with people, and I'm not even really remotely that shocked. Like, it's Hades, bro. Like, if there was one deity from Greek mythology that had popularity that just transcends everything now, it would be Hades, because he's just that guy. So pretty much everyone I know, like, I can't, due to all the modern interpretations of Hades, I can't find a person who actually doesn't like Hades. So it makes sense why a lot of people would be unhappy with this end. And I am planning to talk about that fight in depth and all the issues I have with it, but that'll be out soon. I wanted to make sure I got this reaction chapter first. But speaking of the reaction chapter, enough stalling. Make sure you hit up tomorrow's poll dropping at 12 p.m. to make sure you get your input for next month. Now, let's get into chapter 65. What's up, guys? I love the pencil here, and here we are to chapter 65 of Record of Ragnarok, which is known as Kinchan. I wish that were it. Like, not a funeral service for the Lord of the Underworld, not the crisis of a king, nothing like that. It's just Kinchan. I mean, it'd be like going to be like that sometimes. I ain't gonna knock the hustle. But let's hop right into the chapter itself. So, we open up and we do get to see that Hades, king of the Netherworld. They call it Netherworld. I mean, I guess Underworld maybe like too Greek mythology specific, but king of the Netherworld has lost. And I love how the only part that actually remains of Desmos is the part that wasn't tied to Hades specifically. Only Poseidon's wings stay as present after Hades himself left. Because even though Desmos was taking in Hades' blood and thus essentially acted as a Volund, which is why it got absolutely destroyed, in reality, Poseidon's weapon had nothing to do with that. It was just there to vibe. So, pretty darn interesting. The reasonably, if it got fused with the weapon, it should have disappeared, but I definitely get it. It's supposed to show that there's a piece left, a bit of hope for Poseidon. Not Hades, though. I don't see his weapon anywhere. That boy got annihilated. But we do get to see that. And, like, I'm not going to say the winner of round 7 was predictable, though, admittedly, I am, because kind of was. Who got two backstories, dog? Who got two backstories? But regardless, the chapter goes out of its way to say, like, in the fallout of this absolutely unforeseeable outcome. Really? Like, Buggy Boy called it chapters ago. Come on now. But we see that both sides, and I think this is nice, like, even humanity, both, at first at least, both sides were, like, at a loss for words. They're just like, oh, golly gee willikers, good fellow, I didn't know the king could do that. And I think that makes sense, right? Because once again, Kin was definitely the more harmed of the two at the end of the battle. Missing an arm, bleeding out, broken bones, one hand, like all that, versus Hades, who did rip a hole in himself. That is very true. But at the same time, Hades he was a lot more put together in the end, overall, in comparison to Kin. So Kin winning, kinda crazy. But of course, humanity ain't gonna be caught lacking like this. Because after Heimdall proudly declares, this is an unimaginable upset. The winner of the ultimate king versus king battle is the king where it all began, Qin Shi Huang. And I love how even as he's like saluting, in a way, he's saluting Hades right now. He's like, oh god, I should will curse. Lord help me. Like he's just breathing so heavy because of all the pain he's in, which does make sense. Obviously, bro's missing the whole arm, but with this declaration from Heimdall, obviously humanity just goes nuts because this is really, it's ground shaking. Humans have taken the lead against the deities, which really sets a precedent. It gives humanity a little tiny itsy bitsy bit of a buffer now, because if they lose the next match, they're just tied up again. But before, it was always the gods were getting further away from being annihilated. Not being annihilated, letting humanity live, I guess, ironically. You know, that's the thing, like, I mean, I get it. The humans are lesser than the gods in this context, so of course their stakes would be higher. But it's crazy how if the humans win, they just get to exist. Meanwhile, like, if the humans lose, every last one of them gets annihilated. But it is great to see all the different people. Once again, I think this is one of my favorite parts of regular Ragnarok. Like, this whole... Is that Marilyn Monroe? But no, this whole chaotic final endeavor, the final bout of humanity for the sake of their continued existence, brings all men, all colors and creeds, from different backgrounds, locations, and histories and time periods, really. It brings them all together, and they all cheer in victory for a win, for humanity as a total. Nothing, no petty human squabbles really matter at this moment to them. To them as a unit, to humanity as a whole, what matters the most is victory, and they're going to cheer on their victor. I like that. Little, nice, juicy background details that you get from Record of Ragnarok that I really, really enjoy. And of course, we do get to see that everyone on this side of humanity is just unbelievably happy. We get the general crowd cheering. We get this, half the time, I would like to turn Gear into a Volund just to break her over my knee, but seeing her and Brunhild so happy and like sparkling, I really love that. I love how Jack and his Volund, well no, Jack is mainly calm, right? He's not necessarily freaking out, but I love how his Volund just leaps straight into the air, like straight up a whole couch above the air. I love that. I love how Sasaki, Isami Kondos, and not his Volund, but Isami Kondo and Okita alongside Sasaki's Volund are just freaking out. His Volund has him in a headlock. I love it. I love how all the different people of China are cheering together, coming together, all the different kings. And I love how, like, it's the best backstory. Like, I'll admit, I thought about it. I've totaled it up, and I think it beats Shiva, which... It's hard for me to say that, but it does beat Shiva because it's a wombo combo. Like, you can't just wombo combo me like that and not expect me to put it on top. But as everyone else cheers and is freaking out and having this amazing time at the loss of Hades, there's only one person who remains somewhat like calm and clear with clarity, and it's Chunya, who's just proud of her son. And man, God, like, it's just good character work. I don't know. Like, she appeared for one chapter and she's got it. Like, that's it. The best backstory character in all of regular Ragnarok. No contest. Like, legitimately no contest. She just takes it all. And I love how her real biological child is happily cheering in her arms for the king where it all began. Wonderful. Beautiful stuff. And I love how the words that accompany this, the positive words, is this a dream? Is it reality? It's for the people who want humanity to win. They're all happy. But Heimdall flips it, or is it a nightmare? And we see all these different deities just being like, oh my, Lord Hades, can I rule the underworld now? Oh man, it's probably gonna go to his wife. Darn it. No, but that is one thing I will get on. I get it, we already have Zeus, Adamas, Ares, Hermes. We have them, but would it have killed the mangaka to give us a glance, a whiff of Persephone? Like, obviously, all of Hades is attacked the name for, so either she's dead, which it didn't tell us in his backstory, or she exists and you just aren't showing her. Like, please. I don't know. Like, we saw Shiva's wives, all three of them. Why can't we get a glimpse, a whiff, a taste of Persephone? Like, is there some weird reason? I don't know, but it seems strange that even at his death, we just don't even get a mention. And spoilers, if you haven't read the chapter somehow at this point, she doesn't appear in the chapter. And this is pretty much the last chapter. I'd assume we'd even get a glimpse of her, unless we cut back to the underworld and she's ruling now. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. But what isn't weird is that the like button is free, so is the subscribe button. So please hit those. But we do get to see that from the blade, his volume pops out, and obviously she a little bit bleeding, bloody, in pain. She got some gaping holes in her. Like, don't take that, don't clip that. But regardless, obviously this was a rough fight to the end for both of them. They are both broken in ways that they probably barely understand. However, Kin, being the Chad he is, manages to lean down and catch her before he hits the ground. Obviously, though, he's also in immense pain, so he grunts in pain now. Because now the battle is over, he can finally show, ironically enough, his humanity. Like, the fact that, no, he is not an indestructible bastion of flesh and steel. He is a man, so all the fatigue and the damage and the pain would definitely catch up to him in short order. And we can see that here. And we do get to see that his Voden's like, hey, hold on a minute. Ooh, don't push yourself too hard. You look even more banged up than me. And to be fair, he's more than banged up, Alvatir. I think that's your name. He's missing an arm, but it does make sense. And I love how, even in the face of, like, a literal limb loss, Kin's like, Momatai. Momantai. I'm not sure if I'm saying that. I'm so sorry. If anyone, just, you can get on. Attack me. I don't care. But it's no problem. He's still that confident. And I love how these two, it is Alvatir. I love how these two carry each other to the med bay. Like, these two to the very end support each other. Until, obviously, can't happen because they're both extremely damaged. She's about half his size, and this man is massive. Even though he's missing some mass because his arm is gone. And we do get to see that Kin, and I like the callback here, right? Kin, honestly, he's just a goat, bro. Like, obviously the fight was biased towards him, but like, he's such a goat because the fight was biased towards him. Because he calls back to his moment of weakness in his new moment of weakness, but his moment of mental weakness is now being compared with his physical moment of weakness, where he's here and he tells Alvatir to trust him at the end of all things. And Alvatir, once again, calling back. It's weird saying calling back, like this was a long time ago. In our time it was, but the fight was only 11 minutes or so. So this is like 3 minutes ago that he's calling back to. But she calls him stupid. And obviously, with one last laugh, it finally gets to him. Homie blacks out and collapses. And obviously Alvatir can't carry him. And she actually calls out his real name. Yin Zhang. Interesting. But as he collapses, we see that Heimdall actually calls for paramedics. I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's technically legal. Like, he would need to if it were a deity on the floor like this, on the verge. Obviously, they would need paramedics. But I'm shocked he's so willing to call for them. But we do get to see. We're back with Sasuke and gang. And notably, I will admit, this kind of eats panel space. I get it. Maybe there would be some people who are questioning, but I feel like if you're reading, if I, a certified idiot, can make it through and understand how Kin broke Desmos, I feel like anyone can. But we do spend a whole ton of time here explaining what happened. Because we see that Sasuke just notes the obvious. Oh, he's out of energy. Okita agrees with him. And his Volund, I keep forgetting. I don't know. Sasuke, the other Valkyries' names, and I keep calling them their Volunds, but they're technically Valkyries. They're their own independent characters. And she's been in her own independent character for a while now. But I will never remember her name. And we see that she's questioning, like, yo, I get it, they're goats and all. I'm glad they're able to beat Hades, but how in the world did they do that? Like, bro didn't have the strength. And Sasuke very clearly is like, L plus Ratio plus Bozo, they didn't have the strength. And we see that Sasuke goes on to explain that, yeah, the moment Ken caught that, moment he caught the tip from Hades, he instantly went poof, and knocked out the crux of Ki in Desmos with Tortoise Ripple. And we get the pretty obvious explanation for her that, no, spears do not have cruxes of Ki, usually, but essentially, Hades kind of accidentally performed a Volund by infusing his blood into it and essentially making it part of him. He gave Desmos a crux of Ki, which makes you wonder, is there like a limit? Is there a limit to that? Like, is there a threshold pre-Ki and post-Ki? Like, does Desmos become living the moment an ounce, a whiff, a drip of blood gets on it? Or is it just loads of it? Did he really have to, like, jab himself and tear himself open to turn Desmos into a living thing? I don't know. Also very interesting that Kin only spotted that at the very, very end after he had already lost his arm. I wonder if that's what awoke his ability. Like, if he can just see Ki cruxes, it's not like he ever covered his eyes. So I'm wondering why it only took to the very last second for Kin to realize, like, or not the very last second, the last interaction for him to be like, hey, wait a minute, you got a crux, don't you, little fella? And he managed to blow it. Pause. But we do get to see that since Owain could essentially see the star, that meant all he had to do was aim for it. And once he aimed for it, it obviously took out a lot of the force from Hades' strike. But with the force being gone, that doesn't necessarily mean the power and potency is gone. All the physical power was still there in the strike. But as Okita goes on to explain, well, yes and yes, because Kin ended up just absorbing it. And we did see that instead of Kin using his body as like a flowing conduit, which is what he did at the very early start of the match with the Heavenly Hand of Defense, where he would take the power into one hand, course it through his body, and then send it out, kind of like, for my Avatar fans out there, lightning redirection, if you remember that. He actually just stored the force of Hades' strike before he ended up weakening it, and then charged it in Alvatir. Once again, he kind of used Alvatir as an extra limb, just like Desmos ended up accidentally becoming an extra limb. And thusly, he could... The interesting thing is, though, at least the image implies... Like, that's the weird thing. The image implies that the arrow spins only to the hilt, and that is how the energy reversed. But, at the same time, the whole blade is glowing. Like, notably... I'm not exactly sure, like, he must have had it, like, bounce back against the pommel and then thrust back out to get all the power, because the thing with the original Heavenly Hand of Defense is that it curves around and then he thrusts back outwards. But I guess the thrust motion, or the swirling around motion, was much more captured in the pullback that he did with Alvatir and then the thrust he did with Alvatir, which would, actually that explains it, never mind. But we do get to see that he shattered through Desmos, and obviously this was just an explanation for anyone who didn't get it, and the Volund. But we do get to see that these two ended up having great chemistry, according to the Valkyrie. Like, didn't think it was going to work, but it ended up working out. And I do like, once again, the Valkyries as, I don't want to call them non-characters, like they are characters. They do have personalities, beliefs, and stuff like that, but they're much more, like I said, Alvatir is pretty much the first one outside of maybe Raiden's Valkyrie to have more than a couple lines and wasn't named Brunhild and Gear. Like, that is very impressive that we got that much character and how they interacted, considering all the lack of character and interactions we got previously. But we do get to see that Sasuke even compliments Alvatir and is like, holding up that much power, that's kind of crazy right there. And I love how, once again, it's little, like, Ragnarok, despite being a battle manga in the purest form, it is all a tournament, at least up to this point. Who knows? Plot twist may be incoming. But the characters are what I really love about Ragnarok. If it was just a basic fighting manga, I think I'm not sure if it would lose value, because I'm a simpleton. I ain't gonna lie. As much as I love complex, deep, interwhelming narratives that have plot twists and drops and falls. And I'm stupid. I like to see people punch each other. So maybe I would appreciate that still. But the characters is what carries certain things, especially in Record of Ragnarok. Like, obviously, I'm not a big fan of Kin versus Hades in terms of the choreography, but the character, the other big C, of course, I love it for that. And one of my favorite things is just look at how proud and happy the older sister of Valkyries is here. Her laughing like this is great. I don't know. It's little things. I love it. And we see that the like button is free, and so is the subscribe button. So hit those if you haven't already. But we do get to see that Isami is like, yo, not only was that impressive, but Hwang himself was kind of full of surprises. That level of willpower, that level of determination, it's crazy. And I love how Soji admits, once again, Soji, I think it's interesting. I'm not sure who maybe Apollo. Apollo may be the person that Soji's going to fight, like the prodigy versus the prodigy. I'm not sure if Apollo is a prodigy in Greek mythology, but in a lot of interpretations of modern literature, he's typically portrayed as a guy who's pretty much good at everything. So I love how the person who comments on the battle is Okita, because he's the one that he's so young and so focused on battle that he would be the one to analyze it. I think it's great. But we do get to see that Sasaki does definitely agree. The obviously other skilled guy in battle. And I love how they praise him, right? He's like, look through all of history and you still couldn't find a man more worthy of the title of king. Are there any other kings on this list? Hold on, I'll be right back. Isn't Leonidas a king? I'm not sure. But regardless of that, we do get to see our main Greek cast, the Greek gods, if you will. And Ares a little bit nettled, bro. Like, he a little bit upset. He a little bit angry, if you will. To the point where he gives the stadium wall a little bit of a grippy. Like, he grabs it and then absolutely shatters the darn thing. He fully believes, no, this cannot be possible. This cannot be real. This is not canon. I must have missed a chapter or two. The redraws better drop. I'm just reading One Punch Man. It'll be okay. But straight up, with this, he is unbelievably angry that Hades is gone. And, like I said, I am glad to get reaction shots for Hades and him getting up out of here. And I do love every one of these characters, except for Adamas and Ares. What's with the A characters? What's with the and the G gear? But no, like, what's with the A characters? Ares and Adamas, both garbage. But we do get to see that he has the most direct emotional reaction. Interestingly enough, this is probably the most serious we've seen Hermes. Like, he doesn't comment on Ares' anger, but he does just look on, and he has a very tight face, which is, even after the death of Heracles, I don't think we've ever seen Hermes look this serious. And who knows, it may be because the humans got a lead, and it may be because of the death of Hades. Probably a mix of both. Very interesting to see, though. However, obviously, while Ares will express his anger on a wall, Adamas has a much more forward way of dealing with his anger issues, and he blows the door open. And once again, we see Hermes, shockingly enough, he just straight up questions Adamas. And I know Hermes is probably secretly the strongest character in the verse and could absolutely body everybody here if he really wanted to. But it's, once again, we see this extremely serious face for Hermes, who once again is silent before speaking. And Adamas is silent too. But we do get to see that he is quite a bit nettled, if you ask me. And he grits his teeth and he just straight up declares, like, yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm telling you, right here, right now, I don't care about your game. I don't care about your rules. I'm not participating in this duel. I'm about to kill a fool. Like, straight up, he is definitely about to go and get his revenge on out there. And, with this being said, he straight up says, yo, leave me be. Let me deal with this the way I want to deal with this. And once again, I will give Adamas this, as goofy as his character has ended up being, and is literally, like, the most OC of OCs. Like, straight up doesn't exist at all in Greek mythology. I do like how we're getting something that, now that I think about it, kind of shocking we haven't gotten yet. Like, I'm trying to think back to who's died. I mean, these guys got mad when Heracles died, but no one went over to Jack. Like, no one went and tried to get up in his guts. But Adamas, being the first person out of the 7 rounds we've had so far to actually just go and try and take care of a weakened combatant. And reasonably, maybe not the humans, because notably, it's actually kind of rare for the background characters in the humans' backstories to be that strong, now that I think about it, because I don't think neither of Adam's kids were anywhere near as strong as him. I don't think anyone on Lubu's side was as strong as him. But, like, and to be fair, Thor was actually not that damaged by the end of their fight. But and now I think about it, no one was going to go directly after Zeus. So I guess it makes sense why it never happened on the god side. But for none of the gods to actually go after any of their weakened humans, kind of shocking, kind of crazy. So it's good to see that this part of Record of Ragnarok, which would reasonably happen with all these characters here, especially the ones that are emotionally invested in the fighters, I'm glad we're getting to see this side be explored. And notably, no one stops him. He just walks on off. He leaves. And we see Hermes question, yo, Baba, is this good? Like, are you going to let that slide? Are you really just going to let him walk off and get the king who started it all up out of here? And notably, Zeus is like, yo, my boy, Hermes. And Hermes is like, yeah. And once again, it's the characters of Record of Ragnarok I just love. Because Zeus, this crazy battle-hungry maniac who seemed to care about nothing, nobody, anything. He just wanted a good fight. He just came here for good fun. He's quiet. And he very introspectively says, in his last moments, he apologized. Darn him. And I love that. I love that. I love how Zeus, a character who, once again, just viewed this all as a game, really. Like, didn't necessarily care about anything. We didn't even, ironically enough, I may need to reread, but I don't even think he had that drastic a reaction to Poseidon's death. He had much more of a drastic reaction to Heracles' death. But instead of rage and fury that we got at the end of Heracles, or instead of seemingly indifference that we got at the end of Poseidon, we just get quiet introspection and acceptance from Zeus of all characters, the nutcase of them all. Like, to be fair, everyone's a bit of a nutcase, but still, Zeus of all people is the one who puts immediate respect and reflects on Hades' last words as an apology. Which is probably why he himself is not storming off and getting our boy Kin up out of here. It would make sense because he's, in a way, respecting Hades' wishes, and as what's later on to be pointed out in the chapter, the honor of the deities. And we do get to see that, and a lot is said through facial expression. Once again, I will praise the Record of Ragnarok mangaka to the high heavens. Ha 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 ha, the high heavens. But the expressions and emotions are portrayed with Ares and Hermes in that one panel, where both are silent, both have ellipses in their speech bubbles. But Ares looks sad, meanwhile Hermes looks pensive. And you get that just from how they look. I love it. And we do get to see that the flames of skulls, or the skull flames, I guess, get blown out. And with this being said, obviously the two cause a whole bunch of damage and the ring needs to be renovated. But we get to see a really nice visual of all the rounds so far. Have we seen this? I think we have seen it before. We've at least seen the chibi versions of them before. But it's really cool to see all 7 rounds lined up right next to each other. And once again, we get to see it is now 4-3. The humans are up, as Heimdall very clearly declares. It's round 6 and 7. Mankind scored 2 consecutive wins, and now the score stands 3-4. The impossible has finally happened. The gods have given up the lead to mankind. Can we keep going? We ain't got no choice. And Heimdall, you lucky you ain't fighting, dog. Unless you got a secret super duper buff crazy form just like Zeus, you lucky, bro. You'll probably get executed too. But we do get to see that now we're getting a specially made arena for round 8. Very interesting. I wonder who's going to fight. And notably, I hope this is a specially made arena that actually does get used. Because notably, I think Thor versus Lubu was just a basic flat ground. Zeus versus Adam was also basic flat ground. Poseidon versus Sasuke was a waste because there's water everywhere, but I guess Poseidon just decided not to use it, which is kind of a waste if you ask me. I know all the symbolism comes from the fact that he is like water. That's why he's a personification of it, but still, it's a waste. Then round 4 was the only one that actually had a really unique environment that ended up being used. And I know it tied into Jack's Volund, but still. Then we just went to flat ground, really, for the past 3 fights. So I hope this uniquely designed round is something that's actually truly proper and unique. Like, give me something crazy to work with. But we do get to see that now they're going on break. But with this break being used, we cut over to the bubble machine. And we're in an area where we see both Hwang and Alvatir undergoing a healing process. And notably, this is a very different healing process than what Shiva went through when he lost a limb. They are in special containers. And I don't think we saw... Have we seen any of the... Yeah, notably, I don't think we ever saw any of the other humans healing. They all just showed up with bandages later. We saw Shiva get those special bubble things, which allowed him to, like, regrow his arms up to this point. But no, seemingly, I'm not sure if Kin is going to regenerate his arm, and or if he's just going to heal, and it's going to be a stump. Very interesting, especially... It's an interesting place to leave him if the whole, like, theory about the final war, like, between gods and humanity is going to come true. And he's just going to be fighting with a stump. Very interesting. Also, they're going to have to regenerate their limbs. Because I doubt they'll leave all the two with a hole in her shoulder. But we do get to see that Gear and Brunhild are watching over their healing process. And Brunhild is essentially... not necessarily indifferent, but she is silent. She is pensive, watching over the two of them. And when Gear asks, are they gonna be straight? Like, they good? We find out that, well, the Valkyrie is not doing the best. The human is looking kind of rough. Though notably, we don't actually get to see who says this. I thought Brunhild had said it in my initial read through, but looking at it, that seems to just be some dude in a lab coat with black hair. Not sure. I don't think this is the consistent healer dude. Seems kind of different. I wonder if we'll ever see him again, or if it's just a throwaway design. But very interesting. Very interesting. We do get to see that apparently Kin's fate just determines completely on whether or not he wants to live. Like, it's all on his own will. But that does mean if this process were to be interrupted, will or not, homie's going to end up in the smith. He's going to be gone. But we do get to see that they leave this forbidden area, and Gear's like, yo, I ain't gonna lie to you. That was crazy. I can still hardly believe it. I mean, they beat Hades of all gods and took the lead from them. They are wild, crazy, buku duku crazy. And we see that Brunhild is still dead quiet. Like, she hasn't said a word yet. And as Gear is celebrating that they have 3 wins and they'll be done, the record of Ragnarok will be completed, if you will. They end up walking away further and further to the other healing bay, which may be just the healing bay of the gods. And we do get to see that Brunhild finally speaks up and is like, yo, now that we're out and about and the ring's being remade, let's go check on Buddha. He was beat up, and who knows what's up with him. And that's to be fair, it's only been 11 minutes, so it does make sense that, well, we don't know how long the ring reconstruction took. So it may have been an hour at this point. And I know this is literally the afterlife, so they probably have the best healing medicine and stuff everywhere, but obviously they want to check on him. And I love how Brunhild, once again, a very interesting, another thing that Record of Ragnarok does very, very well, it's tying characters to each other very, very vaguely. Like, I remember when Buddha was first introduced and he had all these super duper weird flirty interactions with Brunhild, call her, I think, like Brunchan or whatever. And I was like, so these two know each other. And this is another case where Brunhild knows a lot about Buddha. Like, she's like, if he's still in his room. And Gear's like, wait, why wouldn't he be? And once again, I like the little dynamics that are shown here. It's not much, it's not crazy, it's not extra, it's not stupid, but it's reasonable little connections that are made across these relationships that span across who knows how long these beings have been alive. I like it. But we do get to see that a certain someone has come to find out where he can find a certain individual. And we get it, yo, Daisuke Valkyries. And it's very, it's fitting, like, it's after what Poseidon did to him in his backstory, it's hard to take Adamas seriously, because we know he's fought her, but it's great to see over certain beings, he still does have that insane authority. Like, his very presence there gives off this, like, insane, overwhelming pressure to the point where Brunhild and Gear are like, and Adamas is simply like, yo, we not play any games, where's Kin? Tell me now, or you die. And we see that, notably, Gear doesn't recognize Adamas. I know she's the youngest of all the sisters, but at the same time, kind of crazy she doesn't recognize him. But Brunhild, she got the Carfax on everybody, so she obviously quickly drops to her knee. And she straight up says, like, well, good to see you again, Adamas. Notably, she refers to him as Adamas, not Adamantine, which is his new name as he took up a new spot in the underworld. But I guess, like, no, very few people, then again, he's been interacting with people who did know him far before he became Adamantine, so they probably strictly know him as Adamas. But interesting that Brunhild refers to him by his original name too. But we do get to see that Gear is finally figuring out who the heck Adamas is. And she just straight up declares that Adamas is a ghost, and this is why I want to boot her out the narrative. But we do get to see that Brunhild's like, well, with the rumors being true, kind of crazy, happy you're alive. But we do get to see that Adamas, he's not here for the pleasantries. He's not here to play any games. And I do love how in this scenario, like, Adamas, it's a very cool way to establish threat. It's very dynamic posing. I love how he just drives his left hand into the wall and just locks in. He leans forward and he's like, yo, right now, tell me what I want to know, because that is the only reason why you're still alive. And he begins to dig, showing how he can just take his fingers and dig straight through raw concrete, probably, or marble, whatever that pillar is made out of. And we get to see that while Brunhild is shaking, she ain't no snitch. And we see that Adamas is like, I bet and die. And I love how he just swings straight through the concrete, and Brunhild sees the claws approaching her, but notably, not only does she not do anything to dodge, but in that instant, there's another swing. And while Gear tries to defend Brunhild, it's not needed. Because in a flash of what appears to probably be some sort of oil or blood or something of that sort, Adamas' hand is just gone. Like, nowhere to be found. That boy gone. Like a certain, can I reference that song? I'm not gonna reference that song. But regardless, we see the person who did save them, and the hand of Adamas casually drops to the floor. And Adamas is like, yo, wait a second. Buggy boy, it ain't even your turn yet, dog. Stay out the way. Don't get me nettled, because I'm already nettled, because my bro's gone. So chill out, Adamas. Let me have my fun. But, not chill out, Adamas. But he's like, but Buggy boy walks up. And once again, endlessly swaggy. Like, he really has pretty much everyone in Record of Ragnarok has a super fire design, but I really love Buggy Boy's, especially the top half of it. I'm not sure how I feel about, like, the pinch skirt thing he has going on. I think it would have been better if it was just one long robe, but still, very, very saucy. And he's walking up and he's like, yo, don't you know, if that Valkyrie, if she had dropped right then and there, and I'd let you put your fingers in her, and not in the way most fans want to, Ragnarok would be over. We'd have to cancel the darn manga. And Adamas is like, hey, guess what? I don't care. And Buggy Boy's like, hey, I don't care if you don't care, but I will run your fade right now. You got one hand at the moment, Buddy Boy, and guess who repaired you? And that is very, very true. Obviously, at this point, Buggy Boy, no matter what Adamas wants, definitely holds some sort of supremacy over him. Initially, when the Raws first came out for this chapter, I thought I had been mistaken in believing it, but I had thought that it was like a natural failsafe, like Buggy Boy had clicked a button and ended up just dropping Adamas's arm. But no, it was just his pure speed and potency from pretty far away, seemingly, because he was behind Adamas. He just managed to naturally slash off Adamas's arm, which is pretty clear and evident display that if these two were to throw hands here, like Adamas seems to want to, and like this panel seems to imply, it would not turn out good for Adamas. But we see that Buggy Boy actually plays to Adamas's love, shockingly enough. He's like, Adamas, did you know the like button is free, and so is the subscribe button? But also, do you really mean to belittle the dignity of the deities that Hades exuded? And notably, you can tell by the look on his face that Adamas couldn't care less. Like, it's not his prerogative. He doesn't really care. But you can see by how this gets to Adamas, how he grits his teeth. And as he tries to just write it off, as he tries to be like, no, I just don't care. I don't care. He flashes back to all these moments throughout the fight. And we cut back to a point of who knows in time, because it doesn't seem to be the giant war, mainly because Hades isn't bloody. But we cut back to a time where Hades has his hand on Adamas' shoulder, on his baby brother's shoulder. And he gives up. He throws his cape to the wind, pulls his mask back down, and is like, fine, whatever. Listen up. When this battle's over, I'm gonna be taking your heads. Both you and that human. And notably, he just gets his hand back. I don't know, like, I just think, am I missing a panel? No, he's still a stump. I don't know how he gets his hand back. Does like Adamas throw it back on? Not Adamas. Does Buggy Boy throw it back on him when I'm not looking? Like, he straight up just has both hands again. Did he regrow it? I don't know. I don't see, because the thing is, not only does he have both, maybe it was just a miscommunication between the artists or something, because we don't get a scene of him regrowing his left hand. And after he says, both you and that human are dead, he walks off. And we get to see that Gear lets out a sigh of relief, because she was like, oh wow, we lived. Was confident that was an L we were taking. I was so ready to die. But we do get to see, as Brunhild goes on to thank Buggy Boy, he's like, hey yo, thank you for coming to our aid. And Buggy Boy's like, hey, let me level with you real quick. I still got this hand right here. I have no idea what that art error is. I don't know how he's got his hand back. Because he straight up picks up Adamas' lost hand. I don't know. I think it may just be an artistic mistake, which is rare for the regular Ragnarok mangakas. Like, they may mess up sometimes. Like, they may just draw, like, subpar art. I will say it. I'll say it. Regular Ragnarok at its peak is pretty much better than anything I read. But at the same time, regular Ragnarok at its lowest is probably not worse than anything I read. But still, not their best. But interesting that this is just an outright art error, or just maybe there's a missing panel or something like that. But we do get to see that Buggy Boy, despite saving these two in this instant, he still does want to wipe out all of humanity. And so do other deities that may come to challenge them. And who knows, maybe the next time this happens, Buggy Boy won't be here to save them. Interesting context. Though it seems like while Adamas doesn't necessarily care about the tournament and its rules, Buggy Boy is perfectly happy to do that the legal way. Like, yeah, we'll just win. And then with us winning, you guys lose, and we wipe out all of humanity. Easy win. Though, very, very interesting. I can't wait to see him fight. Honestly, if he really... because he's on the list. So if Buggy Boy fights and loses and dies, I'm going to be laughing my head off. Though I think, ironically enough, unless this final war thing happens, I think Buggy Boy's destined to lose. Because remember, his whole thing is he's looking for something to kill him. So I bet he's going to have this amazing super inventive fight with someone, probably like Tesla or something like that. They're going to have this amazing invention off, because Buggy Boy seems to be an inventor at this point in the manga. And then in those final moments, like, Tesla's going to come up with one super invention that overwhelms anything Buggy's ever seen before, and it's going to surpass his super magical, crazy, immortal life thing. And bada boom, bada bing, Buggy Boy out the ring. I don't know. I just have that feeling in my bones. I don't think the mangaka would set up Buggy's want to go and then not capitalize on it, unless he plans to save Buggy for another point where he could go. Very interesting. But we do get to see that while Buggy Boy is talking about how other gods may want to get humanity up out of here, he really ain't joking, because both Odin and Loki are doing their darndest to keep that urge under control. However, regardless of that, we completely cut away from that group, and we go to a big old tree, and we see a certain man munching, biting, chewing, consuming, whatever these are. I'm not sure, are those Buddha candies? But he is talking about how the air is so fresh and enjoying himself. But obviously, considering he left any sort of treatment he was getting super duper early and he's in unbelievable amounts of pain, yeah, eating isn't the best. But we do get to see that even with this being the point, a certain man comes up to him. And we get I don't know how I would voice this guy. Man, how'd I know you'd be here? Why do I feel like he'd be voiced by Bardock, the same Sonny Strait, the same guy who does Bardock and Krillin, ironically enough. I think he'd be a perfect voice for this guy. But we do see Buddha looking up, and we meet the titular character of the chapter, Kinchan. And notably, I love his design. I don't know, it's an amazing design. I don't know, you saw I had to draw it. Like, it's just too good of a design, and I can't even tell you why. I just think it's amazing. But with that being that, he reminds me of Kunigami from Blue Lock. Can't tell you what. I think it's just the facial structure. But regardless, he's like, yo, Buddha, do not slip out of the secret without telling anybody, dog. But last I checked, Kintoki's a dude. How does he know Buddha? Like, hold on, let me Google something real quick. Alright, so admittedly I did the most bare minimum and quickest of Google searches, and I could find nothing on why he would know Buddha, other than the fact that he may have, like, demi-godly lineage because he's related to Raijin? I don't know. But it's very interesting that he knows Buddha. Once again, these just outlandish relationships that just exist because they do, and Record of Ragnarok will probably never tell us why. I don't know. I love it. I'm super glad to see it. And we do get to see that apparently the medical team just went crazy trying to find Buddha, which makes me wonder, like, how stealthy is he? I don't know. Buddha seems very flamboyant. I feel like you'd know where he was. Like, did he literally just blitz out of there where there's no one watching him? But, interesting. And we do get to see that Buddha's like, hey, yo, the sick room was just boring, dog. I want to dip. And Kintoki's like, dude, you are such an idiot. And Buddha's like, whatever. You know, I'll heal up here better. And he does seemingly, I don't know, he's gleaming, but supposedly he's healing here. And we see that Kintoki's like, whatever, you're hopeless. I ain't gonna try to drag you back. Here you go. And he opens up this gigantic barrel that he has on his back. And it's just full of these weird candies. And notably, Buddha seems to know that Ken's candy just rocks. And like, once again, I'm just so intrigued on the relationship that exists here. But Buddha loves it. And I thought he only liked his candy, which is very, very interesting. That we do get to see that Buddha, despite being happy to have this candy, he's a little bit perturbed and unnerved. And he's sitting there munching, squunching, devouring, if you will. And he's like, hey, yo, Kinjan, I got a favor to ask you. And Ken is just like, hey, and I think that's another reason why he reminds me of Kunigami. He seems so forthright. He's like, say no more. And Buddha's like, well, you know, I didn't even, like, begin to tell you. I just said I had a favor. And Kintoki squats down and is like, oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I have really negative reason to ever say no to you. So, what's up? And I think this does play into, like, Buddha even says, man, Kinchan, you're a real icon. So, from what little Googling I did, I do know Kin is some sort of, like, religious folk hero for kids or something like that. Not religious, I don't know, some sort of folk hero for kids in Japan. So maybe that's why he's so, like, perfect. But interesting. We find out that Buddha wants Kin to look into somebody, and the person that Buddha wants Kin to look into is the person who will shake up Ragnarok, the dragon slaying hero Siegfried. Now, don't get me wrong, I know as much about Siegfried as the next guy, aka nothing. So, I'm wondering what Buddha's angle is here. Does he plan to replace one of the fighters? Again? Because notably, Kintoki is already one of the fighters, for one, and two, Buddha has already taken, quote unquote, well, yeah, he's literally took a spot of humanity, meaning there's already an extra fighter for humanity now. So are we gonna get a double team? Is there gonna be a 2-on-2 in regular Ragnarok? Is Buddha trying to make it so there's like another fighter? Because if he were to look into, because like, what does he mean by shake up Ragnarok? Like, Ragnarok in this context is the tournament. So is Siegfried gonna come in, replace somebody, and blow everyone out the water? I don't know. Why does Kintoki know how to look into this guy? Why does Buddha know about this guy? There's so many different questions that are raised here, but we just end the chapter there. Very, very, very spicy. Overall, this chapter, I like it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily my favorite of the reaction chapters. I still think I prefer Shiva's end, like post-reaction chapter, a bit more, along with Jack's and maybe Sasuke's, but it still is a very, very solid end. It ties up all loose ends from the Hades fight. It explains the one thing that some people may have not understood through the narrative, which is good. Clears up any loose ends for that. Ends up introducing another fighter for Record of Ragnarok, which is Kintoki. And on top of that, it alludes to another super secret, uber duper powerful guy, which may be Siegfried. Then, of course, we have seeing Buddha again, seeing that Kin is in recovery, and once again, Buggy Boy, Buggy Boy, Odin, and Loki's united front, maybe not united, but their front against humanity. Overall, chapter gives us a whole lot in a nice amount of pages, so I like it a lot. However, those are my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below. You can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.